And hello, welcome to Social Justice Forums. I am your host, Daren Jaime. We thank you for joining us. If you're asking a question, what is the show all about? We bring you a forum discussing and providing a deeper understanding of the issues and inequities that so many people face. Things such as systemic inequalities to pressing social problems. Our guests provide multiple perspectives and bring us insights, helping us to better understand and address the challenges. We invite you to stay connected to us. The Social Justice Forum starts now. And we are back. Elder abuse has become a growing concern, both as a public health issue and a human rights violation. Research shows that 1 in 10 Americans aged 60 and older experienced some form of abuse before the COVID-19 pandemic, with that number rising to 1 in 5 during the pandemic. The New York City Department of Aging is working tirelessly with community partners, helping to eliminate ageism and ensuring that older adults, regardless of their immigration status, have access to safety, resources, and justice. Joining me now is the Senior Director of Elder Justice at the New York City Department for the Aging, Molly Bernstein, and the Chief Program Officer of Neighborhood SHOPP, Tynisha Rodriguez, and thank you both for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. And first, I'll start with you, Molly. As I said in the intro, the numbers are continuing to rise. But from your perspective, what are you seeing with firsthand experience?
Yeah, well, you're exactly right, Daren. To your point, we did see that, especially early on in the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a sharp increase in the rates of elder mistreatment that we saw. Those rates have come down slightly, but they are still higher than before the COVID-19 pandemic. And so what we know is that there are older adults out there who need services, who can benefit from additional support. And we are committed at NYC Aging to making sure that we answer that call. So we have multiple programs here to support older adults who are impacted by crime and abuse. Including our network of elder justice community providers. I'm joined today by a representative from one of them. And so we know that this is urgent and critical work, and we at NYC Aging are committed to answering that call.
Yeah, Tynisha, I want you to introduce yourself through letting us know a little bit about Community SHOPP and the work that you're doing to help with those who are in the aging community.
So, Neighborhood Self-Help by Older Persons Project, we have been an innovative multi-service organization serving the Bronx for 45 years. We have been a pillar in even serving elder justice since 1995, and we really take great strides in how much we have protected this vulnerable population from elder abuse. But SHOPP has 12 different core programming to support not only those who have been abused, but to support caregivers, older adults with socialization, along with any age of anyone with a disability.
Yeah. Can you give me an idea as to trends that you might be seeing these days? Because as we look about, in COVID, there were certain things that I know pretty much you saw a lot of. Now that we're kind of out of that area, what are you seeing now?
So the trends that we're finding is, especially post-pandemic, are individuals who are highly dependent on the abuser financially, especially with the way the economy is, and a lot of individuals who are being subjected to abuse, their fear of even reporting based on housing instability. So that really has been a great trend throughout the years for us in terms of exploitation of this vulnerable population.
Yeah. Molly, as we talk about things that are going on right now, obviously across New York City, a lot of effort is being paid to take care of this most vulnerable population. From your perspective, talk to us about a little bit about technology, because we moved into this technological phase since COVID. How is technology playing a part in what we're doing in terms of dealing with those who are aging? And particularly given the fact that, we talk about isolation, right? And isolation is pretty huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that all of us, NYC Aging included, in the early days of the pandemic, we had to figure out ways to pivot. And we had to figure out ways to continue to provide services for older adults, even though some of the typical day-to-day activities that we all may have participated in pre-pandemic were really disrupted. Things like being able to leave the house and go to an older adult center or attend a medical appointment. And so one of the benefits that came out of that was, a lot of work and resources and thought was put behind how to deliver services virtually, right? How to bring services to the older adults wherever they were, be that in their homes, in their communities, or elsewhere. And so we were able to successfully do that during COVID-19 and ensure that there was as minimal disruption to services as possible. But we also know that sometimes older adults may not be quite as comfortable using various technologies. And so there is a digital divide that we need to think about as well. And so where we've sort of landed now is we try to have sort of a hybrid approach to our services where we provide virtual services or over the phone services to older adults who want that, but we're still providing those in-person services as well in order to make sure that folks are able to really stay connected and active in their communities.
Yeah. Tynisha, when you think about the work that's going on that you're putting with Neighborhood SHOPP and you're talking about those who are in the aging community, I want to ask this question about the power of collaboration because, in order to get some of these things done across the finish line, collaboration is huge. And I'm going to ask you, tell us about some of the collaborations that you have that have really been able to make a difference in the lives of some of these people that you're serving.
Well, here at SHOPP, educating the community on elder abuse is crucial, right? Having this program that's so vital that that not only can detect the abuse, but also prevent it and respond to the abuse. We take great stride in bringing community awareness on signs of elder abuse, even if it's just an elder abuse 101 training, not only to older adults, but to professionals. We actually have an initiative going on right now where we are educating the faith-based community on elder abuse because we believe it takes a village, and educating the community is vital. It not only empowers older adults to be kept informed, but also it gives a great demand for more services the more you keep hearing about it. So outreach to the community, to a wider community, really is essential for this vital program.
Yeah. Financial exploitation is huge when it comes to those who are being, those who are dealing in this vulnerable population. How are you taking some proactive steps in really educating and then also helping out in this area that is so prevalent amongst those who are aging?
Well, elder justice is about dignity, autonomy, and safety, right? And when it comes to financial exploitation, we, as in SHOPP, how we provide services to a vulnerable senior would be we look at what stage the person is at, right? Are they reluctant to services? They may deny the allegations, but through supportive counseling, we really, try to educate the individual and say, you do not have to subject yourself to this. And although you may be relying financially, on this individual, but through supportive counseling, our team really has been great with providing the tools to getting the individual to then become and recognize that I don't have to continue to live this way. And then we work on the rebuilding stage, right? Whether we need to go the route of getting an order of protection, how do we get the person to vacate the home? There are a lot of opportunity to help the individual. It is a very challenging position to be in to even help the individual because there are a lot of barriers to services, right? But we're talking about a vulnerable population that is so underreported because of the fear, the shame, the guilt. So even coming across any referral for someone being financially exploited, it takes time to engage that individual. And we're here to be patient and work with that individual to empower them to become resilient, because ultimately that's what SHOPP is about.
Yeah. Molly, for a moment, take some time and share with us this perspective. I want to shift gears a little bit because we talk about, policy. Policy's huge. We know that in Albany right now they're discussing cuts that are needing to be made, and many times those fall in the vulnerable populations. But when we talk about policy reforms and things that we should be paying attention to, what are some of the things that the public should be having their eyes and their ears on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think to Tanisha's point, elder abuse is such a it's such a complex issue, and a lot of times folks really don't understand or aren't aware of how prevalent it is. Right. So elder abuse happens in all of our communities far more often than we realize. Just last year alone, we had over 3,000 people access services through New York City Aging's Elder Justice Community Providers and through our Elderly Crime Victim Resource Center program. And so we know that there is a huge need out there, and we know that there are more older adults who can benefit from these services that we're not yet reaching. And so any sort of policies that really pull more people and pull more resources into the conversation and broaden the sort of scope of folks talking about and thinking about how to address these issues in our communities are going to be of huge benefit and of really vital importance to combating elder abuse in our communities.
Yeah. I want to talk about the data right now because it shows that, the numbers in elder mistreatment went up during COVID-19. And are we continuing to see this kind of uptick given the fact that so many people are still dealing with isolation?
Yeah, we are. So, you're exactly right that in the early days of the pandemic, we saw the rates of elder abuse and elder mistreatment increase drastically. There are some reports and some data to suggest that it went from 1 in 10 older adults experiencing elder mistreatment to 1 in 5. It does seem, based off of the data, like those rates have come down from the earliest days of the pandemic, but they are still higher than what we were seeing pre-pandemic. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? Social isolation, to your point, Daren, is a huge factor, right? Older adults are not getting out into their communities as much. They're not interacting as much in their day-to-day lives. Things like attending medical appointments, visiting an older adult center, interacting with a bank teller, all of those sort of decreases in the amount of social interaction that older adults are experiencing on a day-to-day can really increase the risk of older adults experiencing abuse and mistreatment. There's also, to Tanisha's point she mentioned earlier, there's an increased financial strain and a heightened dependency where older adults are, having to rely on caregivers and on family members more and more, and those may be the folks that are harming them. And so we're absolutely seeing that, and we know based off of those data that there is more work to be done and there are more folks that we need to reach. And we really want to make sure that older adults who are experiencing abuse and mistreatment know that they are not alone, that there are services available, that what they're experiencing is not their fault, and that they can reach out and get support through folks like Neighborhood SHOPP and other providers we have across the 5 boroughs.
Yeah. Tynisha, how do you get, the word out, given the fact that sometimes we're talking about isolation, they're staying indoors, some family members may not be so privy. How are we doing the job of getting the word out that's so necessary and so vital?
So we've had this program since 1995. So we understand that we have to be the voice for that vulnerable senior. We are the platform to provide the support. And what we do is we tackle all of the older adult centers throughout our community. And again, going to even banks and looking at other professionals, hospital discharge planning. We have to really expand the platform that we do year to year. Just this year alone, we've had over 100 community outreach events spreading the word. And as I mentioned before, we're even this year targeting the faith-based community because it really does take a village as a community, and we have to be that voice in educating and empowering these seniors to speak up, being that it's so underreported. Yeah. We know that the elder abuse is happening, but it's not being reported. And we as a community should take the responsibility of looking at what those red flags are. Well, and know where to turn to for help.
Yeah, I was going to go right here on it because you talked about the red flags. How do we get to a place of understanding what those red flags are, particularly given the fact that I could be having someone right in front of me who's abused and not even know it because they're just going through the motions. Or I see somebody and I might misdiagnose or, misinterpret them just be having a bad attitude, but the reality is they're being abused.
Well, there are different signs to look out for, and some of them can be misinterpreted, right? There's a lot of cases where you may have an overwhelmed caregiver who is so stressed out and who may be yelling, and then there's a report that this senior is being abused, but yet you're dealing with an overwhelmed caregiver. But in regard to looking at the signs, I mean, looking at the body language of the individual, does this person have a bruise? Can they explain that bruise? And just in your engagement with the individual, how are they making the report? For us, it's also about how you relate to an individual, right? As an organization, we came up with an elder justice play that we actually show these videos to other seniors in the community, along with professionals, but it refers to what are the red flags, and it goes to different types of abuse to help in providing that education of how to detect it. Again, it can be misinterpreted, but it's very similar to a child being abused. When unsure, then as long as you know where you can make the report, that I would say is the first step. The key is making sure that any senior you encounter is safe in the community.
Right. What are the biggest barriers, if you could, say when people are trying to get the help for being abused? What do you find to be some of the strongest barriers?
So the underreporting, I would go back to the individual going through fear, having fear, shame, and dependency. I would say cultural and language barriers. It creates a challenge because, again, we would need the individual. At SHOPP, we deal with individuals who have capacity to make decisions so that while we provide the supportive counseling, we're with you throughout that journey. Right? We want to empower you to believe that you can be resilient. So you may come through our doors as being abused, but you're going to walk out our doors being a survivor, because we're going to walk through this journey with you. But the legal and ethical challenges as well. You may have a senior who has capacity to make decisions and is okay with how they're living. So we have to respect their self-determination. And that alone has been a great challenge for us. But a lot of the barriers, I would say, would be the cultural and language. And now even with immigration and just having the fear of reporting, having anyone come to my home.
Yeah, I only have a minute left, but you tapped into my next question. I really was going to ask you. Talk to me a little bit about, and Molly, you can jump in here too. What are we seeing? And I only have about a minute and 30 seconds left. But tell me, what can you tell me about immigration and those who are aging in the immigration population? Are we seeing them come through the doors? Are they staying home for fear of what's going on with deportations?
We're finding that they're staying at home and not reporting the need for services. We've had calls, but then there is a fear of, I want to withdraw, this referral. And it's not even just on elder justice, it's just supportive senior services in general. We're finding that there really is a fear to accessing services.
Yeah. All right, well, I got to leave it there. Molly, thank you so much for taking the time for being with us. Tynisha, thank you so much for being with us as well. It's been great to have this conversation. A very vulnerable population that we want to do our best to make sure that services get there. So thank you both for sharing with us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All righty, we are taking a quick break, but guess what? We'll be back with more coming up right after this.
We're going to start the show right now. This is my favorite part. Ready in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey, this is Angel, and I am one of the instructors for the in-studio production. Here at BronxNet, we offer classes that can help you elevate, expand, and start your television career. All you have to do is sign up at BronxNet.org/education. For the past 7 years, I have been in various productions, spanning from talk shows, independent films, news reports, art displays, teachings, musical performances, and many more. Ain't that right, Angel? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Angel. There are a lot of creative individuals that we're just waiting to sign up for the class. And if I may, can I also express that? Thank you, Angel. That's all the time we have left. Visit BronxNet.org/education and become a producer by taking the course. The class I offer is also in English, en español y también bilingüe. Nos vemos en la próxima clase.
welcome back. The borough of the Bronx is home to countless entrepreneurs with big ideas, yet many of them struggle to have access to the resources, the funding, and the connections they need to thrive. The Community Enterprise Accelerator is an initiative that's empowering under-recognized entrepreneurs by providing grants, tailored support, and opportunities for capacity and community building. Joining us now is the founder and executive director of Community Enterprise Accelerator, Tim Gamery, and thank you so much for being with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So, for somebody that doesn't know a little bit about, your work, talk to us about it.
Sure. So the Community Enterprise Accelerator, it's a fellowship program designed to support under-recognized entrepreneurs in the Bronx. We provide grant capital, mentorship, and tailored support to help these entrepreneurs grow their businesses and their community impact.
For entrepreneurs today, 2025, what are we seeing in terms of like the number of people? I'm assuming that with the way that the economy is tanking, COVID, the things of that nature, that entrepreneurship is taking off.
Yeah, that's a great sign. It's that a lot of more people are considering and thinking about how they could do their own thing, right? So, and particularly in the Bronx, it has a greater percentage of very small businesses. Lots of solopreneurs. So the entrepreneurship spirit is alive and well here in the Bronx. And there are resources available, but it's hard, as you mentioned, it's hard to navigate the resources that are available.
So you have an opportunity to do that, right? And some of the work that you're doing is really putting entrepreneurs on that flat footing. If you look at it from your perspective right now, how hard is it for that entrepreneur to really just break out and break into their own?
Yeah, it's very challenging because there's so many factors. Like we talk about in the CEA, the ecosystem that we exist in, because it's not just your particular industry, it's not just your neighborhood. There's so many factors that go into play. There's in terms of the funding sources, the markets. There's just so much to consider for an entrepreneur. So they need guidance, and that's where we're really leaning in to support at a deep level a small number of entrepreneurs, but there's a bigger vision where we're helping to build a community of entrepreneurs that are also supporting each other and connecting to younger people, because we have high school interns that are being connected to this group of entrepreneurs. So those relationships are really key to navigating whatever it is they're trying to do. It's having people that have been there, whatever industry. So being intentional about having like a wide range of connections is really important for us.
When I look at entrepreneurship, as I said just a few seconds ago, there are some barriers, right, that really people have that you're really trying to help them navigate through. For the average person who may not be so familiar, or for a potential entrepreneur who's out there, what are some of these barriers that we're looking at?
Yeah, there's, access to capital is always a challenge for entrepreneurs, especially if you don't have and come from a background, like many of us in the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx originally as well. We don't have necessarily wealth in the family to draw upon. So that startup capital can be a challenge in navigating those sources of capital. And that's something we build into the program in that we provide grant capital as part of the program, where $15,000 each for each business that is provided in a grant. Other kind of obstacles to getting started, relationships also, the relationships to whatever market you're trying to get into. So we work with a diverse number of businesses. So some of them have pursuing city contracts or Department of Ed contracts. And if they don't have the relationships with the schools or the principals, it can be challenging if you don't know how things work, who to contact. So it's based on the market. It can be very difficult to get to the decision maker and who you need to kind of contact. Yeah. Other challenges, technology is advancing so rapidly. It's really hard to stay on top of.
Right.
And as a small business owner, you don't want to spend your time just trying to figure out and learn technology. So, and it's a challenge for many small business owners to draw upon a resource that could help them with that technology. So that's also something we've built in terms of providing support that focuses on helping with the systems that you need as a business to have to put in place. The basics, customer relationship management. Where do you store your contact information so that you can easily access it, contact your customers, do data analysis on your customers. If you're not storing them somewhere, there's so much you can't do beyond that. You're holding it in your head. So many of those like fundamental systems, you're just not taught that in schools. So it's something that many entrepreneurs have to stumble and figure out, and because they're entrepreneurial, they're figuring this stuff out, but it slows them down, and we want to help accelerate.
And I know another thing we talk about is collaboration, right? Because in order for an entrepreneur to succeed, there has to be this power of collaboration. Take us behind the scenes a little bit. How do you navigate the conversation about collaboration? Because for some entrepreneurs, a little bit leery.
Yes.
You know, really, I don't want to share my stuff. I don't want to work with, but you encourage that.
Yeah, it's a powerful part of this model. Like, community is not just a word we use, we're actually cultivating a community of entrepreneurs that are developing trust amongst each other, but also the advisors that we're bringing in, and we're partnering with other organizations like NY PACE, who focuses on identifying professional corporate expertise that want to help small businesses. And we bring them together in person, at events, and share information. So we had an event in January when the cohort kicked off with the entrepreneurs, a number of advisors. It was at Hearst Tower. Hearst is the funder of the CEA. And they were all sharing what their goals are, what their challenges are, what they're trying to achieve, being more vulnerable than you would typically see.
Right.
And that allows more people to be able to assist you. If you're able to say, look, this is what I'm struggling with, you'd be surprised how many people want to help.
Right.
But making that first kind of sharing is challenging. So we've actually built that in, where we have regular in-person meetings with this bigger group of advisors, the smaller group with the fellows. There's 5 entrepreneurs. Every week we meet on Mondays. And it's just amazing, the relationships and what's coming out of this. They're talking and doing things and collaborating and envisioning also, like, imagine what we could do together.
And you got this cohort, right?
Yeah.
Give me if you will, the syllabus for this cohort and what they go throughout this time together.
Yeah. We're really helping position them and see themselves as the CEO, and bring some structure to kind of leadership. So we kick off at the Hearst event with this strategic planning session, with stepping back, with doing a SWOT analysis, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. These common frameworks in business, right? In bigger businesses, not necessarily entrepreneurs start off at these. Business schools have them. But they're simple, but they're very effective to help you step back, assess, and be strategic about setting goals and setting targets. So we provide these frameworks, but make it simple and accessible, but we do it. So it's not like, hey, here, go read this or do this. It's like, no, we did the session of strategic planning and then developed this action plan, and we keep sharing out. So everybody knows what everyone's trying to do, the businesses and the advisors. We have M&T Bank as a major partner as well. They're volunteer advisors that are connected to each of the fellows. And we're tracking progress on that plan that they've come up with. And each week I'm meeting with them, and we're keep revisiting, okay, how are we doing here? What needs to be done? Adjusting. So it's helping. That's a big part of the framework, is that kind of leadership and management as a CEO, in that you're understanding the big picture, you're stepping back, you're also delegating, and you're being more strategic.
Right.
And it's tailored support, because these are 5 different businesses that are very different, industries, stages, So it's tailored to what they're trying to do. And then we're like, help map the resource to it. So one company, Pat's Exotic Beverage Company, Northeast Bronx, family-owned business, Caribbean-inspired juice. They are in a number of stores in the Bronx and are expanding. Very different from Spin and Learn, table tennis company. It's such an inspiring story. The young woman, Yasiris, is an actual professional table tennis player for Dominican Republic. And she lives in the Bronx, and she's a pro. And she teaches in New York City public schools, has contract with schools to teach table tennis. They're learning from a pro.
Okay.
We've been talking, I'm like, okay, there's gonna be an Olympic champion coming out of the Bronx at some point.
Right.
Because that kind of expertise. So these are different companies and they have different goals and strategies. So it's, again, very, very tailored. But these frameworks you could use for any business, right? Like getting into quarterly planning, stepping back. So it's helping them with these tools to lead their businesses.
When I look at business, we know that we've seen a lot of them tank simply because of failure to adapt. I've often talked about, I look at Kodak out there in Rochester, New York, and I say, they would still be around if they would have, the reason Instagram is the way the Instagram is because Kodak failed to really do what they did, what they were supposed to do by way of transforming their business.
Right.
Traditional models sometimes are not necessarily advantageous for rising businesses and rising entrepreneurs. We're seeing a lot of traditional models in the failure component.
Right.
I'm on my point when I say this, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the reasoning behind this traditional model failure, what are you seeing?
Well, the tradition, we're in the era where everything's changing.
Right.
Rapidly. I mean, we saw with technology, of course, the biggest companies now didn't exist 25 years ago. Who would have thought? And it's jobs and everything. But now with AI, like, there's no more tradition in a sense where adaptability is the key. It's a new set of tools and kind of like approaches that entrepreneurs have now. It's amazing with technology and AI. I'm deeply learning so that I could help the entrepreneurs utilize these tools because it's a game changer. So, but it's that ability to learn, and I like recognize patterns, like what's needed, what's happening, what do people need, like understanding customers. So it's really committing to kind of continuous learning so that you can adapt without any assumptions of how things will be, because it's not. It's that ability to adapt, take the pulse constantly, what my customers want. And I think there's a traditional, going back, this aspect of tradition I think is important. It's like real relationships and like solving real problems and people reconnecting. The technology can help actually make us feel more isolated. And there's a need to help connect. And in connecting, identify problems to solve and create businesses and solutions to those problems. And not just problems, but wants and desires. And people have a vision and wish we could, have a coffee shop here. Whatever. There's certain things that I think will persist.
Right.
Our need to connect.
And part of your mission also is really helping people see beyond, like not just the borough, but listen, not just New York City, but how to really engage in a national/global environment.
Yeah, and making those connections too based on existing relationships. So some of the entrepreneurs in the cohort, like Soul Cacao, craft chocolate bar company, they were in the first cohort, 3 brothers, originally from Trinidad. They make craft chocolate. They're selling in Targets across the country. These amazing chocolate bars. I have a bunch at home.
Is that right? Okay.
Dark chocolate is very good for your health.
Yes.
They only use 3 ingredients, but they've been going back to Trinidad to connect to farms there. They're talking to people there about how do we connect, not just from in the Bronx, but to connect to where they're originally from, and to identify property there. They're having very powerful conversations and vision around expanding and making those connections. So yeah, that's something in terms of visioning that is a big part of it. And what helps unlock that, and why we also focus on like process and these small businesses and help them get the minutia out of the way so that they can vision and not be just trying to catch up, just trying to fight fires, which
Yeah.
often happens with any small business, small organization.
As we wind down, tell me a little bit about how people can get access to the work that you're doing and be
Yeah.
connected. If I'm a small business owner or an entrepreneur and I say, listen, he's talking my stuff.
Yeah, there's a number of different ways. So we have Instagram, social media accounts, CEABX on Instagram. If you go to Elevate Digital, we haven't launched the Community Enterprise Accelerator dedicated site yet. If you go to Elevate Digital, we have information there about the program, and you'll see the current cohort, the previous cohort. We're launching the new website soon. We have an event coming up on April 11th. If you are a Bronx entrepreneur, if you are in the ecosystem that help and support entrepreneurs, we bring them all together on a quarterly basis. We have an event. You can reach out to find out more about that. And to put it on the radar, we have the applications for the next cohort, our third cohort, opening in May.
Beautiful.
So we'll be looking for more Bronx entrepreneurs to bring into this community.
And somebody says, what qualifications would I need to be in order to qualify?
Yeah, the Bronx-based business, a year, at least a year in business, 100K in revenue lifetime. That doesn't mean in just in a year, but you've been in business, you generated some revenue. So we're not right now, we're not focusing on purely startups.
Right.
Focusing on some businesses that have been operating.
Right.
And we're prioritizing under-recognized entrepreneurs, Black and Latino, minority entrepreneurs, women, that we're prioritizing.
Yeah, we'll certainly want to make sure people get connected. And once again, let's get the website out there.
Yes, website elevatedigital.nyc.
Okay.
That's where you'll see Community Enterprise Accelerator is on that page.
Tim Gamery, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Great conversation and great work that's going on. If you're a small business entrepreneur in the Bronx, please check it out. Taking a quick break. Guess what? We got more, but we're going to come back right after this. And welcome back. The East Harlem Council for Human Services Incorporated celebrated its 60th anniversary gala, honoring 6 transformative leaders who've made an impact and a lasting one on the community, including the recipient of the Hero of Hope Award. Our next guest is a Bronx-born pioneer in music and innovation and pediatric cancer advocacy. He's dedicated his life to making a difference through the Cristian Rivera Foundation, a cause very close to his heart. Joining us is the founder of the Cristian Rivera Foundation, John Gungie Rivera. And thank you so much for joining us, John.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, so for people who don't know, obviously, about the Cristian Rivera Foundation, first let's talk about that and the work that you've done.
I started the Christian Rivera Foundation 16 years ago after my son died of a horrific and rare pediatric brain tumor. The name of the tumor is DIPG, which stands for diffused intrinsic pontine glioma. It's a brain stem tumor, and it affects children typically 2 to 10, and there's only about 200 cases in the United States each year. It's inoperable. There is yet a cure, and the survival rate when my son was diagnosed was 0%.
And going from there to today, obviously, and thank you for sharing. And for those who don't know, your story. Thank you for taking the time to share that. You took your pain and actually turned it into a purpose, and you've created this foundation. And you said that you didn't want your son's legacy just to die in vain, but you took it a step further. What were you hoping to come from this?
Eventually, a cure. When my son was diagnosed in 2007, the team of oncologists that met with me said I would not see a cure in my lifetime, and I wouldn't see a survivor in my lifetime. And that didn't sit well with me. I am someone who my entire life has taken obstacles that were difficult and turned them into solutions. I believe in problem solving, not dwelling on the problem. So when they told me that, I refused to believe that. And I got extremely aggressive for the next 2 years. My son lived 2 years, which at the time was unheard of. Kids were dying typically 3 to 9 months after diagnosis. And I did extensive research. I visited many places and met with so many amazing doctors, both from the conventional world and the holistic world. And I am happy to say, although my son passed away, which is extremely sad, I was happy to say that he did live longer than most kids at the time. And he had a great deal of good quality of life. So during the 2 years, he had approximately a year that he had good quality of life. So that made me happy.
Yeah. You talk a lot about this one word. It's called resilience. And that's a word that pops up all throughout your journey. You talk about your son, resilience in his journey. How is it shaping your work today and what you do? Because you talked about, hey, listen, I heard what the doctor said, but I'm not gonna let it in here.
Well, listen, resilience is something that in our lifetime, we've seen how resilience can be a winning factor. Look at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. with his civil rights movement. When you believe in a cause and you just push forward and you focus on solutions, and every now and then you may hit a roadblock, you go over that roadblock, under it, on the side of it, but you got to keep pushing forward. And I am proud to say that today there is a 2% survival rate. Still not acceptable, but I'd rather have 2% than zero. And another major factor, because of the research that I funded, we funded rather through the foundation, children that were typically only living 3 to 9 months are now living 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. That's unheard of. So when a child is diagnosed and they're living longer, it gives us time to find a cure. So a child with DIPG today has more chances on living longer and living forever, because we don't know what's going to happen from 1 year to the next. We could finally get lucky and discover the agents that work, or discover a solution, a trial that's effective. And that's what the end goal is. And resilience plays a role. Do you know how many times our medical partners have been told, hey, you you're wasting your time with this. There's only a few hundred kids in the USA that are diagnosed each year. This isn't something that's an urgency. And a lot of these institutions look at it as the bottom line. How much money can we make off of this if we're only going to treat a fraction of the 200 children? And I'm proud to say that our medical partners have ignored those um, conversations and just kept plowing forward. And that is resilience.
Yourself, when I think about the work that you've done, you're working with your son's foundation. It didn't just start there. You've had a career in the music industry,
Yeah.
and very successful in that. And then when it came time to put this foundation together, you decided to form a board. Now, they tell me that some of the people you have is actors Kenan Thompson, Luis Guzman, Malik Yoba, Berto Colon, AJ Calloway, and NBC anchor Darlene Rodriguez, who spent some time with us here at this station. We spent some time early on.
Yeah, her and I've had many conversations about BronxNet and how she got her start. And one of the tipping points was her interviewing another fellow board member who's a Bronxite, Fernando Ferrer, which
Yeah.
happy birthday, Fernando.
Yeah.
His birthday is today.
Wow, amazing. And I shout out to Fernando Ferrer. He shouted me out on my birthday, which was just last week. So I want to give him a shout out.
Happy belated birthday to you.
Oh yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it. But today it's about you. So let me keep plowing away. I
want to just point out we also have some other high-profile board members like boxing champion Edgar Berlanga, who's only lost one boxing match. And interestingly enough, he has 18 first-round knockouts. The person that has the second most is the great Mike Tyson that has 13 first-round knockouts. We also have an artist, Danny Cortez, who's one of the hottest artists in the world. He just came back from his tour in France. He does those miniature models of iconic New York sites. Like, you ever went to the neighborhood and see an ice box next to the bodega? Well, he does those ice boxes and many other things like a phone booth and things like that. I mean, he even does it with the tags that it has on it, some graffiti on it, stickers. I mean, this guy's amazing. We have Gio Urshela, who's a Major League Baseball player. He plays for the Athletics. I can go on and on. We have such an amazing board. We have very prominent business people, the vice president of Goya Foods. I can go on and on. And I'm very proud of the board because it's because of the board that we've been able to push our agenda forward.
Well, let me insert this here because when you talk about such a diverse board and bringing them all, to the table, what's the pitch that you give to say, listen, I want you to be a part of this?
I really have to say they make a pitch to us. When they attend an event, they're so moved by what they've experienced. And I wish that you could watch the videos for the gala or our mission videos. They come to us and say, how can we get involved? How can we become a board member? So most of the time, much more than 50% of the time, that's the case. I don't need to pitch it to them because it's something that you don't have to pitch. I don't have to pitch to someone that they should buy water if they're in the desert. It's something that they want,
Yeah. Yourself, the work that you've done has been recently honored. You got the Hero of Hope Award. I let it do it earlier on as I introed the segment here for us. For yourself to be able to be honored with the Hero of Hope Award at the 60th anniversary gala, what did that mean for you?
I mean, as flattered and honored as I was, the true hero that evening was Dr. Adam Aponte, who's the CEO of Borinquen Center and Borinquen Center. They accept walk-ins with no insurance, no money, They don't turn anyone down, even if you're an immigrant. They just are amazing. They truly are the heroes. Me, I've been giving back and helping organizations like Hispanic Federation, the Kits Bay Boys Club. I can go on and on since I was a kid. So I was sort of, um, I wasn't given another option. I dived into this foundation because I wanted children to live, and I didn't want to see families ripped apart and children suffer the way my son Cristian suffered. So what's the definition of a hero? The hero is the person who has options, but they choose the right path. A hero is Roberto Clemente, who used to bring aid to Nicaragua and on his off season and do baseball clinics. Those are the heroes. There's no reason why they do it. They just want to do it.
Yeah. For yourself now, I think about advocacy and the work that you do. And then you got your board, you've got things that are going on, projects that you're leaning into. How do you keep the balance? You got the music, you know, right? How do you keep the balance of all of these things working together so that way, A, you can accomplish the social causes that you want to be able to accomplish, but at the same time, all the other things in the fire that you have?
Um, you can't be allergic to work. I work I work 6 days a week, and sometimes work a few hours on Sunday morning. I own a media buying company. I pitch endorsements for my high profile clients. We offer creative services, digital marketing. I've been in that space for such a long time. Um, it was my second job. I was a tutor. And then when I was like 15, and then after that, I worked for an ad agency. I started in the mailroom, and then I worked my way up. So I've been in that creative and marketing and advertising space my entire life. And so it's difficult to balance, but anyone can do anything as long as they put their mind to it, apply great time management, and just remember, you got to go for walks, you got to take a break, and you also have to find a balance of some sort of happiness. And that happiness comes from my family. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and my son's over 30, my oldest son, who's now went back to grad school. He's going to be a chiropractor. They bring me the most joy. So when you are working hard, but then you take a break and you know, find some joy, um, that helps you continue the rigorous schedule.
Yeah. Well, the theme of this year's gala is saving lives and building futures. So, as a father, as an advocate, what does that mean to you?
Um, that means everything. Uh, Saving lives, building futures. Children are the future, and that should be our biggest investment.
And as you talk about investment, how do people take the time to, if they want to become, you know, an investor? I don't want to say an investor. But how do they invest in the work that you're doing and the foundation?
They can donate to Cristian, Cristian, Cristian doesn't have an H, RiveraFoundation.org. And they can click on more info or simply donate. And, you know, we're GuideStar Platinum, best not-for-profit, 8 years running. I think we're GuideStar Platinum, 7, 8 years running. And GuideStar is a big deal. It's, you know, full transparency. And our dollars go to great use. We fund family support, and we fund amazing research by two of the most brilliant minds in the pediatric brain tumor world. Dr. Mark Swedane, who's the vice chair at Weill Cornell Medical Center's pediatric oncology and spinal division, and Dr. Oren Becker, who heads the tumor tissue research over at Mount Sinai.
Right. And John, I got to say that there's there's progress that's been made. I mean, when we think about what's going on, you know, since your son's passing, we got stories of children who are responding to actually the treatment now, and you know, things are looking upwards. Your thought when you know now that you know you're seeing the response to treatment, and even though you're not all the way there, there's progress that's being made.
I'm optimistic. I'm so optimistic. Some progress is better than no progress, and progress fuels you, and I'm fueled. I'm in this fight as long as I live.
Yeah. And so, as I think about the work that's going on, you've worked in the music industry, you've worked in the social, you know, social justice and advocacy right now. What's the message for people about finding your purpose and finding that cause that really drives you? And anybody that spends 5 minutes, which you can tell that this is a passion of yours, how do you pass that on to somebody else to find their passion and get behind it?
Just start. Do something. And it starts with just a seed. And then once that seed is planted, it's going to blossom. I mean, I've met people who say to me, you know, I want to get involved, but I'm super busy. There's not much time you have to invest in this. And it's those same people that are probably the most involved, because once they see the progress and they meet these beautiful children and they see that they're making a difference in these children's lives, what better gift can you give yourself?
Indeed, indeed. And for people who want more information, how do they go about finding that?
Again, our website, ChristianRiveraFoundation.org. You can email us. There's an info section, and we get back to everybody within 24 hours.
John Gungie Rivera, good to see you, brother. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Keep up the great work. An honor and a privilege to talk to you, bro.
I'm so honored to be on this show, and you're a fantastic host, and your questions were amazing. Thank you so much for allowing me the spotlight to talk about this very meaningful cause.
Hey, you deserve it, brother. You deserve it. Good to see you. All righty.
Happy belated birthday.
Hey, man, thanks. I receive it. All righty. All month long is what they tell us, right? We got to do it all month long. All right. Well, we come to the end of our show today. We hope you enjoyed this week's discussion on the social justice forums. Now, if you're rewatching this week's edition, catch the recablecast right here on BronxNet.org. You want to join the conversation and present your point of view? Well, visit our social media at BronxNet TV, and we encourage you to join us next week. We'll discuss we'll elevate the discussion and bring that discussion of issues that further deal with things that are happening across the globe. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, saying take care. God bless. It's been good seeing you.